falls over, you know, it's not just something that's anchored down like someone's trailer or something being anchored down. When we have our winds, anything can blow. I mean, entire barns and things that are anchored down.
How does that relate to this? You're saying because
what I'm saying is, like,
blow over?
do we actually need an ordinance?
You don't think it matters that they're occupied by humans, by people?
No, I don't think it's your job to regulate the security of people in their own private property and whatever they choose to live in.
And that's why there's no building codes in Davies County. That's one of the reasons we moved here, is because the lack of building codes, so we could build the kind of house that we wanted. But with the regulations coming in here, we're leaving.
Yeah, this is to me, it's a private property issue.
So 41 private property, page 41.
Mm-hmm. 41, 42. So recommendations.
Hey, I was talking about that house down on the corner of me, Donna Klein owns.
Okay.
I hope
Any
that
other
lands on you,
discussion?
them little Wizard of Oz
On the
people
factory
don't come out the
built
munchkins and pull you out of there, wicked witch.
Go first.
Golf carts next. Page 43.
I'm sorry, Natalie. Back to, I feel like, once again, maybe these issues could be covered under public nuisance. A well would be a public nuisance that you were talking about.
Mhm.
So maybe
So my
what
house
we
is
could
a
do
public
is
nuisance.
eliminate a lot of the private property thing, but leave public nuisance in there and try to give that a more all-inclusive and yet loose
Condemn my house and
for
kick me out.
our township or what, you know.
So we should
So we
define
don't
public
want
nuisance.
mobile homes in the village. This was against having people move here and put mobile homes on.
No, just so they
No,
not be safe.
just that they needed to be safe, that they needed to be secured, and they needed to be tied
The
down.
only thing it actually said you can't live in, we actually have someone who does live part-time, and it's that camper trailer that's up here on Main Street.
What, I know what you're trying to avoid is that little hut that got built
Oh,
way over there.
No.
And there's a new one.
But
I don't
that's,
know what
that
little
guy
hut
said
that is.
it was a little green hut.
Just north of Mr. Worley's
Right.
trailer.
And,
Oh, yeah.
and I understand that, but once again, it's private property and that person has the privilege of doing that.
It wasn't his property.
It was built on the property.
He built it up, no,
Somebody else's?
yes, yes.
Oh,
It's on somebody
well,
else's.
that took care of
Their
that.
responsibility.
So the public nuisance, so let's say I have a well on my property, which I'm not saying that I do or I don't, but let's say I do. It's on my private property, which really, unless I've given you permission to go onto my private property, why would a well on my property mean anything to
That
you?
wasn't what she said.
It
She was
was if
talking
it was
about
uncovered.
open.
Open.
right, cesspool.
A cesspool?
Well, just an open well that some kid could fall in.
Right.
Because kids don't always ask about going across your property. We're a community, we ought to care about our kids. I mean, that's fine. But I
But
know
they're-
that's different than what you think, but that's fine. That's why I think it's there.
Right, well, I'm a parent and like, I've told these parents, don't let your kids on my property.
Okay, any other discussion on the factory built homes?
Just consider the word.
Private property.
Beth has that
Or create a
notated.
public nuisance thing is what I wrote down. Okay, the definition of that.
The golf carts, page 43.
Was there a reason you guys did this on the golf
I
carts?
cannot remember.
It was done at 11.
It's a big problem. The races late at night after y'all are to bed, them golf carts out there
And the
bashing
first
around,
phone
bumper
call I
car.
get that my husband and Beth are racing up down the street, I'm just gonna call law on them.
You do.
I think I could take him, he'd get caught.
I know you
anyway. Not because he wasn't pushing down fast enough.
They don't go as fast as yours.
Well, just like section 2B, just watching Jim drive around in his golf cart,
I
he's
know.
gonna be in violation because he doesn't have a flag
Right.
that's such and such a
And he knows
size
that.
and 30, but I mean,
Why?
is that gonna
it's
bother
a safety
somebody that he
issue, yeah.
doesn't have a flag on his golf cart here in Jameson?
Scratch these
I'm just
ordinances.
wondering if we really need this. I don't know.
Section ordinance
Negative.
passed in July of 2011.
Now, Ian,
Yes.
are you really wondering, or would you really like to see them gone?
I'd like to see it gone unless there is something specific, you know, that is a problem.
I mean, truthfully, I think it would probably put in there just for safety purposes.
It's also illegal, it's
And
also
it's
illegal to
just-
ride golf carts on public streets. Where they're
According to the
13,
county or the state?
according to county and state, I
Okay.
mean,
Well, then why do we
and
have to do it?
that's why I know Albany,
So I guess the police chief
Initiated,
in Gallatin's breaking the law because he's always
the
riding a little golf cart
authorizations
around town.
saying, hey, you can, I mean, we encourage you to use golf carts and
So
stuff.
is that what we need to do, is make it an
Which Chevy to my seat is
authorization?
missing.
Well, that's
both
what,
parts,
that's
so-
basically what I thought we were,
And I don't think.
we were going for here, is it's an authorization, you know, it's
Operation.
Saying that it's okay to
that it is, that
be
it's,
on city
that it's an
streets.
okay, that we as the village think it's a wonderful thing for you to actually do and operate safely on the streets. You don't have to have it licensed, you have to have it safe and operate it safely. You know, you can't have you technically cannot have an unlicensed vehicle on a public street.
But I think like 4C covers it unless you're just crossing, you know, that highway. I even saw a golf cart in Gallatin this last week.
A lot of them in Gallatin have golf carts.
Yeah.
And they require them to have certain things on them to be able to drive them on the
It
city
didn't
street.
have a flag on it.
Well,
And a triangle on
But
the
I
back.
mean,
Finding lights.
I think that's one of the things is, you know, they have ordinances in the
That are
town
already
that are
dealing.
saying, if you can ride this in town, but it has to have a flag, it has to have the, you know, I don't know what theirs are, but, you know, I think that's, they created those to make it legal.
Well, I think
Or
if
what
somebody runs over your husband's golf cart, then we should reconsider writing a safety ordinance for the golf.
Because we aren't
Otherwise,
Gallatin.
just saying that it's,
It's
you know,
authorized.
authorized and
Good
it's
enough.
okay to use them in the town, that's great.
Yeah, I like that too.
And
Thanks
leave
for
it to
saying
the
that.
person's
Because I'd a whole lot rather see Randy riding around in a golf cart than I would in a
Truck.
vehicle.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think he done,
And they save a lot of
rubbed
gas.
one,
We all
I think
have
he
golf
done rubbed
carts.
one vehicle.
I think the
No,
whole
didn't
county
I
should
take
go
him back?
golf.
Oh, was it?
Okay, any other golf cart discussion? Parks,
Now, I think this is where the board really does have jurisdiction.
Mhm.
It belongs to the town,
And you're the designated
custodian, caretakers,
custodian.
right.
Silence is
discussion? Any discussion on the parks?
Mhm.
Okay, property maintenance. Touched on this already.
Yep. This is one where I personally have problems.
Me too.
Okay.
So, in regards to this one on page 48, section 7, C, I mean, we've moved here and we've got chickens. I've been asking my neighbors if our roosters are bothering them, but we've got a fence and we take care of them, and according to this, then I would be like Mary back here. I'm in violation just because I have chickens, because the way this reads, no person shall keep or permit upon premises any of these things, and I think that's, again, infringing on personal property rights.
Yeah, scratch
Page
that.
That's on page
48, section
48.
7.
See,
Section 7C is the one specifically dealing with chickens, but that would probably, or any other animal,
Horses, cows, or
so that
other
would be like sheep or
horses,
anything.
cows.
Yeah.
I think the one place where the town does have responsibility is the alleyways. I would think the alleyways, so if there was ordinances where you're talking about debris and, you know, people park their abandoned car in an alleyway, obstructions, those should be, ordinanced. Is that the right word?
should have ordinances back then.
I think the board does have a responsibility with alleys.
Although we
With
do
the
say,
alleys, but this is like section 4, it says, shall keep or permit upon such premises or upon alleyways. So if you took out such premises and did alleyways, ditches, I don't know, the right-of-way areas that are,
But see, we say that the property owner, somewhere in these, I marked it up, I don't know if we're to that section or not, but we say that the property owner is responsible to the middle of the alley. So,
Well, that takes care of that, then.
well, and that's mostly for mowing or for junk and all that, but, because it would be on, but it's not really on their property literally goes to the edge of the alley, but that's what we've said here somewhere.
Well, I think that's okay, I think,
Yeah,
that-
there
that
it
would
is,
be-
3-1.
That would be appropriate.
Regarding the duty to maintain an alley adjacent to a property, the term alley shall be understood to be one half of the alley nearest to the property. That's, so we're okay with that.
so number 2, like debris, where it's talking about bricks or rocks or whatever, does that mean that the city will then be in violation with all the bricks that we've got over here by the,
Well, the city doesn't own that. The Betterment owns that.
and so would Betterment be in violation of this already when this goes into effect because there's a pile of bricks?
There is a
Do you
pile.
see what I'm saying?
I do.
It's dangerous.
And Scouts worked last weekend feverishly. The plan is to build a building there, and so they expect by this fall. I think if something's in progress, they're cleaning it up, and there's a plan. And by this fall, we hope to have a slab there for the building to go on, and the bricks cleaned up. But yes, that's right. I'm not denying what you're saying, but it's one of those things. So if somebody complains about it, it comes to the committee, and they say, okay, well, here's the plan. This is the deal. This is the timeline. Whatever, weather permitting, whatever it is. That I think we do that for a citizen. Why wouldn't we do that for an organization?
But then I'm saying, do we have the right to tell our neighbor, you can't have bricks and rocks on your, or whatever it is?
But that's what this says.
Right, that's why we're saying it shouldn't be there.
Well, I wondered if that was, she didn't actually say that, so I was waiting to see if that's what she
Yes,
said.
that's
Say
what
it.
I'm just meaning.
Okay.
So declaration of nuisance could be eliminated. Well, I'm
Oh,
looking from
section
section
2,
one,
declaration. Okay,
section
so I was
two.
looking at definition, okay.
Mhm. See, it says, it shall be the duty of every person owning, leasing, occupying, or having charge of any premise in the village to maintain that premise, any right-of-way, ditch, alley. Once again, you're dealing with personal property, and I think that has to be looked at and
Yeah. Do you guys know where Lock Springs is?
Yes.
Yeah.
You ever drive through Lock Springs?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Is that a community you'd like to live in?
Yes, actually, I would.
Well, they probably have openings, because, it's just, there are a few houses that are nicely kept, and then a lot of it is just not, and again, whether that, I understand the discussion we're having is whether that's the village board's responsibility or not, but that's
Whether it's your responsibility.
but it's their responsibility too.
I know, whether it's your responsibility to police somebody else's private property. It isn't.
They're under the
It's private property.
small town cooperative.
You're saying it isn't my responsibility, or the
No,
town
I don't
board's
think it's
responsibility.
not
Not the
yours
board's.
or the
I
town
understand,
board's.
But I'm saying this is what you get if you don't have it be somebody's responsibility. 'Cause it is
Well,
a community that.
Who are you to judge the town of Lock Springs? I have a customer that was in last week that lives there and loved it. He moved from, and he's a prominent citizen and a great business. They live there for a reason. I moved here for a reason, and it wasn't your beautification project. And in fact, that's why I'm here tonight. I didn't move into this community to be your enforcement of me.
And so the question is, that we need to ponder is, are all the people not here satisfied with the ordinances since they didn't come?
I can address
So
that.
that's one of those things.
There's a lot of people that have commented to us that don't like what they're doing, but there's a little bit of some agitation there. They're sick of all this, and then you've kind of pitted it as like them and us. And I don't appreciate having been made out to be the bad guy again. It's like, you guys have to do this, and why do you have to do that? Where It's basically, all I'm doing is defending my own rights. I'm not trying to agitate or do anything to anyone else here.
I would just disagree with you that it's us and them and that we're not trying to do it to them. And we had this meeting, we sent out the ordinances, we said, come and talk about this, we're gonna consider changes. Come help us
Shall I
figure out
tell you
what
the
we need
names
to
of the
change.
people that were
So
afraid to go,
consider
and a lot of
that
them was
we
afraid
don't
of Beth?
need to change anything because we only got 5 people here out of the whole town, so everybody else must think it's all right, or they haven't said anything.
Well,
one way.
I've
And
had
I'm
a
not
lot of
saying
people
that's
tell
true, 'cause
me
these people
that
care
it's not
enough
gonna
to
make
come
any
out.
difference what we say, because it's gonna be done anyway. I had a lot of people say that to me.
Right.
I mean,
What do you think the town board responsibility is?
It is to uphold, it's the oath that you swore when you raised your hand and you were sworn into office. Beth did it last week. You want to replay it. She swore to uphold, Lorianne swore to uphold our constitutional rights. That's why I'm appreciative of her being protective of my rights. That's what you did, Letha. When given a little of authority, then unrighteous dominion. I said, because you've been given a little authority by the people that voted for you does not mean that you can actually exercise unrighteous dominion over people's private, constitutionally guaranteed rights and property. Unrighteous dominion is the word that I used.
Okay.
Marianne, would you see that we are attempting to alter this?
Yes, and I applaud you for that.
So I
Kathy,
make a
what
motion-
would, I'm sorry, Jan.
I would just submit for consideration by the board that we look at eliminating page 47 through 49 because of the infringements on personal property rights and constitutional rights.
Okay, so on that note, the property that's up here on the corner across from the school, we should just let it sit there and rot away and be an eyesore and a vermin sore and, I mean, attract vermin and
Which,
kids going into it and,
It's the
I
danger.
mean,
just
The
narrow
property
it down
owners-
to abandoned properties.
have pretty much said that they don't care about our ordinances, they're not gonna do anything about it.
So instead of putting everybody under something, right, like what Lori suggested, something that covers the abandoned or the properties of people who aren't here, who are absent, who don't care what's happening here in our community, rather than this that puts everybody, you know, as violators.
Nuisance or abandoned regulated owners for 47 through 49.
Kathy, what you said, you expressed the opinion that it didn't matter because it wasn't going to help. They were going to do it anyway.
That's just what I've had people say to me, because I would say, are you going to the meeting tonight? And they'd say, well, probably not, because it's not going to matter what we say anyway, because they're going to do what they want to do. That's all that
So
was
they
said.
really see us as being that autonomous?
yes.
When you read this, I can see why they think
But
that.
that's why we said come to the meeting. You know, it's sort of like you're damned if you do and you're damned
Okay,
if you
so-
don't.
Exactly.
And so
It'll be,
we're trying-
we
we're
won't
glad
know
you-
that till we see if you actually listen to us, because in the past, we've talked to you and we didn't get that far. So I'm pleased that you're doing this.
Sorry. I'm glad
No,
Kathy's
no,
here. I'm
no,
glad
that's
Kathy's
okay.
in bed. Everybody came kind of bad.
That's all right. I warned Nan if I wasn't there in the morning to get the guys to collect bail money.
No, we're not getting that. Nice guy. You're not getting out of that easily.
So, I guess,
And I'll help. And I don't have any
Could you
problem
s-
with any of them except the fact that y'all are going to try to tell us what to do on our own property.
No, that's not what it's that's not what it's all about. We're not trying to say that we're going to come out and we're going to form together as this vigilante group and tell you what you can and can't do.
No, but you're
But
going
we're
to
going
fine
to-
us.
It's in
If we
writing.
don't do
I know
it.
but it
Some
without
of us
writing
can't
rules.
hardly afford to make our monthly bills. How the hell are we going to pay? Fine.
But that's what I had
Use my French.
volunteered to be part of. Instead of having an enforcement officer, I volunteered to be part of a
Complaint panel.
a complaint panel to go and help and address some of these things.
There's nothing written in here about helping.
we made a huge change.
That's why that's another reason I thought why we were here is why to get everything where everybody could understand things. Where we may need to add that it's helping. When we need to get more information out. I think that's the problem now is we have a lack of information in the community. That what we're trying to do is not be an iron fist government you know, this is the way it's gotta be, but be what I saw when I moved here versus, you know, from Kansas City when I had nowhere to go versus moving to Lock Springs or moving to McFall or moving to, I'm a Jennifer County guy. So, you know, moving to some of these small towns in the West, even coffee. I came to Jameson, and first thing I noticed when driving through Jameson was it was a community that cared. And, you know, and I had assumed that it was we cared because we had the neighbors, because we had the rules and things that the other small places didn't have. You know, when I saw many posts on the boards about dogs and different things when I moved here, including leash laws, which I thought there was a leash law, but I guess it never was. That ordinance never was passed. Didn't bother me, but you know, I don't think that we're trying to be, you know, an authoritarian and take away rights and things like that. I think we're trying to place rules in place to help each other, to help others that, you know, that aren't here to understand, and those that come in to understand this is the way, you know, things want to be, and safety issues. And I may be totally wrong, but that's just one board member's opinion.
Well, Kathy, will you represent us in a different light to people?
Sure. You know, my suggestion was to delete all this, but if the real crux of this is for those abandoned and the absentee landlords that are doing nothing to take care of things that are a problem, let's write it so that it applies to abandoned or absentee landlords, not to everyone.
And here, I think currently, for the most part, it does apply to abandoned things. But who's to say that somebody couldn't move in here and they live in the home and they don't mow their yard? They have trash everywhere. You know, I mean, we don't like to live like that, but there are people who don't have a problem living like that. And I think these kinds of, I mean, you know, I see what you're saying, where, I mean, for the most part right now, it does pertain to abandoned properties, but it's also to keep people from moving in here and trashing everything up, you know. I mean, because those of us who've been around here for a long time know that, I mean, there have been people who still live in a home that has trash. I mean, you know, there are people who live like that, and we don't want that, you know.
So
I mean,
we should target those people?
So, no, I mean, that's kind of why the rule is for everybody, you know, but because I don't know how to really explain it.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of, I mean,
And
you
who
know, the
determines
complaint
what
panel, we're not
trash
going
is?
to go out looking for things to.
But you can't be all bark and no bite if there's nothing behind it.
Yeah.
I mean, we
Yeah.
some of the stuff is redundant from state and county provisions also that we can go to. But you know, it can't be all bark and no bite. There has to be rules.
Well, if it's
We need
important
enough
enough
to
to
enforce
make
them.
it an ordinance, then it should be enforced. If we don't plan on enforcing what's here because we don't like how it plays out, then that stuff needs to be stricken, I think.
Okay, well, how
Yes.
about? I mean, I don't drive 65 miles an hour. I mean, I drive 65 up and down 13. I mean, you know, there's lots of rules and ordinances that are out there that I don't obey. I'm not saying I'm looking at rules and ordinances here that I'd be guilty of.
I'm just saying,
But-
like, if we,
Well, but what I feel and hearing from meetings that I go to is that we're sitting up here as a vigilante panel that's trying to you know, place our thumb on people, and because we're making ordinances to you know, change their way of life and change their property and change the way they do things.
Take all the rights away from them. I don't think anybody on this, that anybody could say that anybody on the board has done that to anybody in this community. That we have not decided, okay, I got this little bit of power, now I'm going
Right.
to.
So
just
what
go
is
out there
this?
And I'm gonna get you.
What is this then, Aletha?
Hmm?
What is this then?
this
If you haven't done that, then what is this that we're talking about?
The ordinances.
That you've passed, that you've,
And every town has ordinances.
we had some before you passed this one. We've never been without ordinances that I know of. We had some ordinances, but we didn't have these ordinances.
I would say that's why we're having this meeting.
And we're here and that's what we're
So we can
doing.
get them right before we start enforcement. None of those things have been enforced.
yet.
Right, that's what I think.
And
Dawn
the
is,
group
some,
committed to
one
not
comment
having
with the meeting was they
enforcement
weren't,
until we
Plenty
had a
of
meeting
ordinances,
where
but
we
they
had input and we could
Because the
revisit
paper
these
they're
things.
written.
So,
And I mean, and I understand the redundancy with the county laws and the state laws and us having it too. But I mean, for the most part, the county has pretty much told us unless it's a dire emergency, they're not gonna come up here because Joe Blow's dog is barking or so-and-so's, I mean, they're just not gonna do it. So pretty much that leaves it open to where anybody can do whatever they want to, and I guess we.
And how have we lived here for the last 20 years without this?
But there have been issues. And I don't,
So you're the one that doesn't dare go talk to your neighbor and tell them what your issue is with them? We have to have this?
no,
in the
I
state?
do that. But there are people who don't.
and you can't always find your neighbor if they're the absentee. You know, if they're not here.
I'm glad I only got one neighbor to worry about.
Well, that's a big one.
That's a big worry.
Because she's doing this because of her trashy neighbor. That would be you.
That's all right. You don't have to live in my house.
We can work it out.
We can duke it out, Beth. You want to?
I think we have noted, we'll just look at property maintenance or
Okay,
the
I
ordinance
got it,
a
right,
little
right.
closer.
It's like you I can go home and give my husband a shower and put him to bed.
Okay. Vehicles,
Now what page number?
51.
51,
53.
51, 52, 53.
Discussion, comments, concerns?
I'm sorry, I'm lost. What page are we on?
51.
51.
We were dealing with the same thing here. What businesses are the board telling people they have to have a self-propelled vehicle? No, those are definitions.
Yeah, I mean, I have problems with this as well, but I'm sure I came to listen to the audience rather than me talk, but, you know.
Okay, I'll just make a comment, and I'm not gonna, you gotta pick your battles. In one case, I had a car that was wrecked. I let it sit on my private property for a year. It gained me $3,500 when I wouldn't have got $3,500 by waiting that year. Then I had another vehicle that was too good, but needed to be sold, and it sat there for about another year before Johnson's bought it and repaired it. It was on my property, back up there. It was no different than my horse trailer or something else. It was a vehicle. I don't believe that it hurt anybody in town having that vehicle sit there for a whole year. And I was able to sell it to somebody that was able to use it by waiting a year. So, I mean, if I have I don't plan on having a bunch of junky abandoned cars on my property, but I'm not being a junkyard or anything like that, but still, I did have I would have been in violation of this because I had a vehicle that was not licensed on my property.
I do think that we could say they can't be in streets and alleys.
Yes.
You know,
Right.
that's-
Right.
Not public.
Yeah.
I think
Park
that this
or,
is
you know,
good, on public.
Yeah.
And I
Right.
don't
Use your
think
property.
you're being unreasonable.
And I think we can, on page 53, I know it's in the same section about stuff, I think we can say, if we wanna put up signs on the corners, they can't park on the parade route during the picnic parade, because vehicles can't, you know, if wagons can't, the old route was worse, but, wagons can't turn the corners that sharp, and so, I think that's worth keeping. We're not gonna just do that willy-nilly, but sometimes.